Hi guys, my name is Danish and welcome back to my channel, and today we are going to do an interesting swap with an hard disk drive and an SSD. So without further ado, let's just get started. So this has been in the works for a long time, but finally we could get all the parts that were necessary and do a hard disk swap from an old spinning hard disk to a fast SSD, a SATA SSD. So I think this is an older Toshiba generation laptop, and the first thing I did was check out how slow it really is. So I'll run the footage in front of you right now, and as you can see, I'm just creating the Windows Media tool and the hard disk is pinned at 100%, and even without that it is really slow to interact with and move about. Even the boxes have that old-fashioned borders that happen when there's lagging or it is not moving it or rendering it in real time, and yeah, it's just an unusable mess, if I can say so, because I've been so used to SSDs for the better part of the decade. So this hard disk drive movement was really slow and really irritating. So we just got the parts, which was a PNY SSD. This is just a 120 gig SSD, a SATA one. It's really light and not really that heavy, but what can you do because of that small size of the storage, because there might probably be just a few chips in there with the memory. And then we got this generic caddy, which was a 12.7mm caddy for the CD drive swap. It has the same connectors at the bottom and screws and a screwdriver included to attach the hard disk or the SSD to this drive, and it is a pretty simple interface to do and check out. But yeah, the main thing came with the dismantling of the device. So this, being an old-fashioned laptop, had a lot of doors on it. So the hard disk door was separate, the RAM door was separate, the battery was removable. Do you remember removable batteries? Yeah, that was a thing. But yeah, opening it up was pretty fairly easy. I'm gonna jump through this a bit, and the SATA hard drive can be removed, and we then removed the CD drive from its slot and also moved the SATA hard drive mounting equipment to the SSD, because we want to put the SSD in the SATA slot and the SATA hard drive in the CD drive slot. Now I'll come to the reason why we did that in a bit. It's a pretty involved process because you have to really open up the guts of this thing, and overall in this generation of laptop it is not that hard, and putting the SATA SSD into the original caddy location and then putting the CD in the, pulling out the CD-ROM drive and attaching all the attachment points to this new attachment caddy and putting the hard disk in it and just adding it to this system. It was not really a lengthy process, but yeah, the thing to point out over here will be the outer bracket for the CD drive that is in the shape of the molding of the laptop also needed to be removed and reattached to this. We haven't done that yet in this video because we do not want to jinx anything, because as you always know, PC building, you never close up all the panels until you know that the system is in a working order. It is a taboo to close up everything and all the glass panels, the front panel, the rear panel and all of that before testing everything out, because it's another pain in the butt to do all of that debugging as well. Now before doing this swap, I did check out the original speed of the hard drive using a speed disk application for Windows, and it was showing about 120 megabits or something for the speed of the hard drive, which is pretty typical for a SATA drive. Its maximum throughput is I think 150 megabytes per second, so hitting 120 was normal, and I still get the same with my own SATA hard disk that I use as my D drive. And the swap was done. That's it. It was not really, we had to rotate the laptop once just so that the connectors on the caddy could easily connect to the CD slot connectors on the laptop motherboard. So other than that, we did not have any hardware glitches in the hard drive segment. Now other glitches and problems we had were a fair few over here. So before I can talk about those, you can just check out the final result of all of the updates that we did with the C drive and the D drive, and it showed the proper speed of hard disk pinned to 100% and the spinning drive to be a secondary drive at the side, and I got 450 megabytes per second when the SSD was put in the original hard disk drive location. When we tried it the other way around, when we put the SSD into the CD drive slot, we got about 200 megabits per second of a speed in the speed test. So that is, I think, a lower SATA configuration that was there just for the CD-ROM drive, because it does not need that high of a throughput. So that was a cheapen out moment, but I think it was a common factor in those days of this older generation laptop, so that was well known. So the hard disk drive in that slot would not be bottlenecked because the throughput was around 200 megabytes per second and the hard disk could only provide about 120. So the hard disk is not bottlenecked over there, but the SSD was. So putting the SSD on the original slot gave us the maximum SATA 3 bandwidth to use for the SSD. Now this is an older generation laptop that had the option of the removable doors at the bottom to upgrade. You might not have the same case in terms of upgradability because SATA hard drives are still common, but you might have to open up the whole clamshell from the bottom to open it up, and sometimes you have to open up the keyboard to remove the bottom clamshell or remove the keyboard section and reveal the chassis that way as well. But here my brother had done the same thing to repair his laptop hinge, so I have the footage that is being shown right here for you about the whole laptop being opened up. Just follow any sort of manual that you find online or YouTube videos showing the teardown of the laptop and segregate your screws and bits and all of that and put everything that was in place and just do it in the reverse order and make sure everything works at the end of it. And this is, you need to do this at your own risk in terms of either cleaning the laptop, opening it up to replace a broken part, or opening it up to even test if there is any broken part. And here we had one major broken part, which was the keyboard, which started giving us problems from the get-go because I didn't think we were going to have a smooth operation, but from the footage you saw that we just put the drives in and boom, it's done. It wasn't really that easy for us because we were already having boot issues even with the hard disk drive because the original keyboard on the laptop was buggy. Even with an external keyboard attached, the BIOS would probably ping the original keyboard and see an error and not go past that point. But most of the time when it would go past that point, when you entered Windows, the external keyboard would work properly and without issue. But that internal keyboard gave us so much trouble because we thought it was the hard disk that was not working. So we tried it in different orientations. We put the SSD in the drive cage, we put the SATA in the drive cage, we put one drive at a time into the system and nothing. And finally we pulled the trigger and ripped out that keyboard and disconnected it and just put it back in place. We didn't connect it, we just pulled it out and removed the connection and put it back as a dummy keyboard. So if you put a kid on the laptop will not work with the kid's movement. I know you all have done this if you have siblings when you're playing PlayStation or something, using a controller and playing yourself and a loose dangling wire to your little sibling who is also holding a not working controller. You evil pieces. You know how to fill up that sentence. So yeah, we had to rip out the keyboard and disconnect it to make it work, and we were also having troubles with the trackpad not working in the Windows partition when it was on the hard disk drive. And from what I've heard right now, that the trackpad has started working again. I don't know if it was some sort of bandwidth issue with the hard disk drive or the driver was not installed properly or loaded properly. Whatever the case may be, the trackpad is working now, and even though he uses an external mouse, having a trackpad on the laptop working is sometimes useful. So now he has a good working system. First he was bottlenecked by the hard disk drive pretty hard because none of the other components like the RAM, the CPU or the GPU were being pushed to 100% because of this limiting factor. But after the swap, now that the hard disk drive is removed and the SSD is in place, the SSD is taking up so much less effort and not going to 100% and sitting in the normal lower percentages of usage. The other components are starting to show their edge, but still a usable laptop nonetheless, because now the CPU is starting to show that it is being pushed a lot more, and you can just see that the performance is running over there and it's just a bit more efficient because it's not sitting idly and waiting for the hard disk drive to churn out the data over here. So it is not a major performance gain, but it is noticeable. Everything loads a bit more faster. In the terms of raw performance like gaming or something, you will not have a huge difference in that aspect, because other than the load times being long, and if the game is not really hard drive pushed or it doesn't pull enough textures from there and stuff like that, that the hard disk is bogged down at 100%, the performance of the game will not really suffer that much. You'll just have a more responsive menu options, the UI, the load times of the game. So this hard disk drive to SSD swap was something that was worth it, and something that just increased the longevity of his laptop by a little bit more, so that he doesn't have to spend a lot more money into getting a new one, and just you get used to the one that he has now and give itself a new life. So I guess that's the end of this video. It was a fun video to shoot as well, but the debugging process was a bit of a pain. It took up a lot of time, but in the end I think it was somewhat satisfactory and achievement worthy. So it was fun for me to make this video. I enjoyed it a lot. If you do enjoy this video, comment down below about what you wanted to see or what you want to see, any ideas if you have. Give this video a like if you liked it. Get subscribed to my channel for more of my videos in the future, and as always, stay home, stay safe. I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. Peace.